Hi, my name's Ellis, and I've been vegan my whole life.
Cool. And why are you vegan?
Because we don't want animals to die and it's healthy and good for us.
I'm Avery, and I've been vegan my whole life.
Cool. And why are you vegan?
Because it helps me and other animals.
I'm Trieu. I am a sports writer and stand-up comic, and I've been vegan for, I actually don't know exactly, I think it's been 10 or 11 years. Okay. And why, initially it was for health reasons, and then the other ethical reasons came into it.
So we're talking about like 2014?
Somewhere in there, yeah. Well, let's see. Yeah, Avery was born, my son was born around that time, and I've been vegan as long as he's been alive, so at least that, if not a year or two before. I had kind of this transition period where I was trying it, and then I'd fall off the wagon from time to time, and so that's why the exact date's a little hazy.
What made you even consider this?
Yeah, so my ex-wife and I at the time were living with a college roommate of ours after school, and he was vegetarian. So we already had that runway. I think that was around the time a lot of those documentaries started coming out. So I think Earthlings was on the TV in the house one time, and I think the other one is called Species that we had seen. And it did start to put the thought in my head of, oh, this doesn't seem right. But health-wise, I was in my 20s and struggling with gout. I'd always been a pretty good athlete, but never seemed to be able to get exactly in the shape that I wanted. So I was always looking for another way, especially as you get out of college and you get into regular life. It's easy to start putting on weight, I think. And so was looking for a way to get healthy, and also my foot really hurt from gout. And so I knew I had to do something different with my diet. And then my ex went vegetarian first. So I had her and a roommate that was already vegetarian. And then I actually remember being at a football event, and people who work in football and work in sports don't eat very healthy. You know, you're in sports media, there's all kinds of like buffet tables set out, you're on the road all the time. And I just remember thinking, this is not the lifestyle I want. And I made the decision to be vegan while in San Antonio at a All-American football game.
Oh, so it was like at the game when you're like, I'm ready.
It was that week. I think all of my coworkers went to a Chick-fil-A, and I went to a juice bar and did a wheatgrass shot. And I can't remember what else I ate. I think it was a raw place, and so it was like a raw wrap with walnuts in it. And you know what, like 2 hours later, I thought, I don't feel crappy from a meal, which is, I can't remember the last time on the road that I didn't eat something and then regret it later.
So everything just kind of finally came together, and I guess it sounds like a lot of it was also ethics, right?
Yeah, I think that the health was a big help to be able to say, you know, I would like to get in better shape, but the ethics, I think, kept me there. Yeah. It kept me from, like I said, for a minute I'd fall off the wagon from time to time out of convenience. And once the ethical part of it came into it, it was a lot easier for me to not cheat. And I think the ethics part of it also drove me more towards veganism from vegetarianism, because then you start to learn the ins and outs of dairy and cheese, and I considered myself a big cheese guy. And so once you learn about that, the ethics really kind of helped keep me there.
So I'm just kind of curious, like, was the documentaries and stuff, was that kind of like after this game that you mentioned, or was that kind of before the game? Like, was the documentaries what made you go to vegetarian or vegan?
I think that there was one documentary that made me go towards vegetarian, and so I was starting to already eat less meat. Yeah. And then the game happened, and then I came home from the game, and then I saw another one. And that I didn't mention Forks Over Knives. That was a big one. That was the first one that I think was available. Not the first one, but one of the first ones that I feel like was available a little bit more mainstream. Yeah. So people were talking about it more, and I think that was another thing of where it started to become less of this underground movement. Started to hear about more people doing it, and I think that helped me. Give me a little boost too, that it was going to be easier to do that as more restaurants had options. We had our first vegan only restaurant open in Grand Rapids around that time. It's not around anymore, but seeing that was happening and people were open to it was a big thing for me too.
Cool. So it sounds like you had a pretty supportive like community around you of sorts. Like you said, you're like roommates or something, college friends or whatever. Is that right?
Yeah. What's funny is they stopped being vegetarian around that time, and I stopped eating meat. So we flip-flopped. I actually think that I actually remember being at dinner and getting the wrong order of wings, and I decided I'm not going to eat this. And they didn't want the food to go to waste, and they ate the wings for me, and I almost think that meal flip-flopped us all around.
Whoa, that's funny.
But they certainly gave me the boost. We did this scavenger hunt in Chicago where we had to go all over the place, and one of them gave me a veggie chicken nugget that they had purchased somewhere, and I ate it, and I thought, this tastes exactly like a real chicken nugget. I actually think that chicken nugget helped move me along too.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, no doubt that we had people around us who, I think everybody has some naysayers around them, but for the most part, our group is progressive and was happy to hear me out on why I was doing it, and was pretty supportive, not trying to, throw bacon on my plate or put food in my face or even question me that hard on it.
Nice. Now, what about it was your wife at the time?
We were dating at the time, or just getting engaged, yeah.
Was she doing this too?
She was. She started before me. She went vegetarian first, and then I went vegetarian, and then she went vegan, and then I went vegan. So I was always like trailing behind a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah.
And do you think you could have done it without her?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah.
I would like to think that eventually I would have seen the ethical side of it and the health benefits, and I would have come to the conclusion on my own, but there's no doubt that the significant other in your life and the person you think you're going to spend your life with, you're influenced by that. And just because of that, we had to start looking for places to eat together, stopped having meat in the house, and I started to get into alternative forms of protein, and so there's no doubt that her influence was gigantic on me.
Do you think you could be with somebody who's not vegan now?
I have to. I'm exploring that. As I'm single again and dating. There's not a ton of single vegans. It would be nice. I think my baseline is at least be open to why I'm doing it. And but if I were to pare down my options to only people who are vegan, I would narrow down my pool.
But you only need one.
I do only need one, but so I'm open to it. I think I can be with somebody who's not vegan, but they have to be open to the lifestyle, and at least be able to listen to my arguments on why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. Prior to doing all this, do you feel like there was ever a time where you're like, there's no way I could do that?
Yes. In fact, I dated somebody who was vegetarian for a time, and never thought. I ate large amounts of meat and cheese and whatever. And so I don't know that I ever said I could never do that. It just never entered my mind that I would. My grandmother was a vegetarian. I was surrounded by people who didn't eat meat. I just never thought that I would need to. I just was always, like I said, I was playing sports and always in reasonable shape. The light bulb just hadn't gone off yet to where I felt like I needed that.
Was there ever a time, maybe way back, like as growing up as a child, where maybe a seed was planted, maybe you saw an animal get hurt or killed even?
Ooh. So I do have some hunters in my family, and I do remember seeing them clean the deer after, and I distinctly remember being in the garage and seeing them stick a knife in it, cut it open and kind of tear its innards out. And I thought, this is an odd way to spend a Sunday evening. Yeah. And I also remember them saying, we're animal lovers. That's why we like to go out and be in nature and hunt. And that struck me as odd. And I've always been into some level of animal rights. I remember arguing with somebody as a kid about poaching, because I was really into the African animals, and we were talking about poaching. And so I remember being against certain forms of hunting and animal treatment. So I do think that there were some seeds planted, yeah. And for my ex-wife, she grew up on a farm. She showed pigs in 4-H. So I meant to say that earlier. I think the seed for her had been planted long before that, because she had talked about how when she was a child, she would raise these pigs, and she would cry when they ended up having to kill the pigs. And so I think that was, when she talked about why she was going vegetarian, she talked about having that experience from her childhood.
Wow. Moving forward, you go vegetarian. This is before your children were born, and you go vegan even before your children were born. Did you know right away you were going to raise them a vegan from conception?
Yeah, that was the plan. I've always thought that I don't want to impose any of my viewpoints on my kids. Now, of course, being their parents, they're not just going to come out of the womb and know what to think about the world. I'm going to have to guide them in some direction. But in terms of all parts of life, religious beliefs to what we eat, they're going to start off following what happens in this house, and they're going to understand why we have that lifestyle and those beliefs. But if they ever grew up and wanted to change that, we would have a discussion about it, but I'm not going to make them follow the lifestyles that I follow. But starting them off vegan was the idea, always going to be the idea.
Nice. And did you have any concerns about this being risky health-wise for them?
Not risky health-wise. I just knew we were going to have to work harder to make sure that they got everything that they needed. We were going to have to do our research, and we were going to have to pay attention to, you have to do that anyway, pay attention to how they're growing and those sorts of things. And then really the battle was going to be with the rest of the family. When the in-laws watch them, when my parents watch them, are they going? And we did have to fight that battle. My parents, wanted to make them quiche and things like that. And I think we let that go for a little bit with our oldest. We were still in the transition zone, I think, from vegetarian to vegan, and so we allowed a little bit of that. So when he says he's been vegan his whole life, he actually hasn't been, but for most of his life, I would say at about a year, that stopped, and it was full vegan from there.
You mean were they breastfed?
They were breastfed. Yeah.
I mean, for how long? About a year?
Longer than that. They breastfed over a year, but I don't remember the exact stopping point.
Yeah. So then they would transition into solid foods, and then at some point they were exposed to grandparents cooking, and it was a little oh, how do I navigate this kind of situation?
To the credit of most of the family, by that point, we had made it pretty clear that we weren't going to stray from, I think they all thought maybe it was a passing phase for us. And then when it became clear that it wasn't, they, I think begrudgingly held those boundaries and figured out how to make some vegan food and have some options around. And we tried not to burden anybody, so we would bring stuff for family gatherings. We would do our own cooking on Thanksgiving. And it just got easier over time. Everybody got a little bit more used to it. And then my parents also started to eat less meat. And my dad had some health things, had a heart attack, and he wanted to lower his sodium and started to eat less meat as a result also. So
cool.
He ended up.
Is that working for him?
It's working great, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Would you say there was just a couple times where the quiche thing happened?
Yeah, they really liked to take him to Panera Bread.
Okay.
And he liked whatever pastry was there. And yeah, it was a couple times. And I think part of transitioning to vegan, one thing that doesn't get talked about a lot is learning to just verbalize your boundaries to people. Yeah. And I hadn't picked up that part of it yet.
Yeah.
So I just these are my parents. They're excited that they have a grandchild. I'm just going to let them feed him that.
Yeah,
and
it's
then,
their way of expressing love, right?
It was. And so as time went on, I found better ways of being able to say, I got comfortable with being able to say, look, this is not something we want to feed him.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to, here are the other options for you. And I think along with that, because in the last 5 to 10 years, I think the world has become more vegan friendly. It certainly is where we live now. So once I was able to present them with some options to be able to say, look, you can take him to Burger King now, or you can take him, there's options everywhere. I think initially it was difficult for them because they had this opinion that there was nowhere they could eat with him. And that's certainly not the case anymore. So once that got easier, I think everybody slowly got more comfortable as time went on. And so then the quiche became a thing of the past.
Nice. Yeah, that's so interesting because you articulated that very well. And I went through the same experience. My son was 7 years old when we went vegan. And same thing. I was like, how do you tell your grandparents, and not just once, but over and over? Did you find yourself having to repeat yourself with them?
There's still days.
Yeah.
And I think another thing is, I'm Vietnamese, they're Vietnamese, and they wanted to introduce him to the traditional cooking, and they're saying, culturally, this dish is made with beef, or this dish is made with chicken, and we don't want to substitute it. That's not the culture. That's not the... And those conversations were, again, difficult at first. I also wasn't prepared with the answers.
Yeah.
Or when they said, why are you doing this? Or can he still grow up healthy? Can he get big enough? Can he be strong enough? How is he, the classic, how is he gonna get enough protein? You don't know all those answers, or you don't have them templated in your head as well when you start. Now it's like, please ask me this question. I've been reading about it for 6 years and I'm so ready with the answer, but back then I couldn't do it. But I think, the cultural food was tough. And now they've all, my dad just made a pot of pho and brought it up here for my daughter, and he makes it vegan, and it's great, it's delicious, and they love it. So everybody's adjusted, and I have to give them credit for that too.
That is so sweet. Yeah, that is nice. As far as culture is concerned, I'm glad you brought that up because it is intriguing, and I talked to so many different cultural, backgrounds, that it's just great to be able to hit on that. Do you feel like culturally that your background, like that people needlessly consumed animals in a way that people do now? Or did they just do it out of necessity? And in a sense, had more compassion for animals culturally, in your culture at least. Do you think, like, if you go way back, before things, people were colonized or westernized, there was a time where people were essentially potentially vegan forward in many parts of the world, even in your culture. Do you see any of that when you look at your history?
Yeah, so first I should clarify that I was born here. My parents came from Vietnam, so speaking on Vietnamese culture, I've never been immersed in it.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to speak out of turn on that. From what I know, eating animals has been part of the culture, at least for the family, the generations that I can remember. I think there's a respect there for animals, and I do think that a lot of it was out of necessity. So to me, veganism is about progression. It's about, we used to do this, we don't need to anymore, so let's re-examine this. So even in the past when people ate less meat or they didn't eat meat, I think that there's some importance there, but it's not the main reason when I talk to people about why I'm doing it now. So culturally, I would say, that may have happened in the past. Eating animals was a part of the culture in the past, but we've reached a point now where that's not as necessary. So let's talk about this, and that's more of it for me. But as far as like the past, I can't fully go into that.
Yeah. So here and now is a better place to focus. Yeah, I agree. Now, as far as after you went vegetarian, did you notice any changes in your health, or let's say physical changes or mental or emotional? And then same thing with veganism. Did you notice any physiological, mental, or emotional changes?
I didn't notice as much when I went vegetarian. I think I was still eating cheese and milk and all of those things. When I went vegan, I did notice some, and then I was gluten-free for a period of time too, and then I really noticed a change. It also coincided with a period of time where I had a newborn, my first, and so I was just tired all the time. But I think I would have been more tired. And certainly once he got a little bit older and was a little bit easier, I really did start to notice more energy and more, and I did notice some physiological changes, because I had gotten to a point right before he was born where I was the heaviest I had been in my entire life. And that weight came off pretty quickly. I wasn't just sitting around either, I was exercising, but I do think that the diet helped a lot. And even if the diet itself plays into this mental, just kind of this mental routine of I'm trying to be healthy. And I think that plays into the whole motivation to get up and go for a run in the morning and come back and eat something healthy and you feel good about yourself. I think that all played a part. So I did notice some difference at that point. I made this mistake that I think some people make of going vegan and then thinking like, well, in a month I'm just gonna feel like a completely different person and I'm gonna have a six-pack, which isn't entirely true, right? You can be vegan and eat French fries every day and potato chips. And I think I was finding a balance between finding things that I wanted to eat, feeling like I could treat myself from time to time, and still being healthy. And so that's where I think the ethics helped me stay vegan, because to be honest, like physically I was noticing some changes, but not to where my expectation level was.
Cool. And now, do you feel like you're significantly healthier than you were pre-vegetarian, vegan, and all that?
Way healthier. It's not even a comparison. I think it takes some time to settle into what can I eat, when should I eat, just a whole routine. And I had to find my footing with that. And I think some people just stop being vegan before they get to that comfort point because they don't get the results they want right away.
I'm glad you said what to eat and when to eat, because there's so many other variables. It's not just what you eat. There's exercise, timing, and all these other things, sleep, stress management, social support, stuff like that. You've mentioned the family a few times. Sounds like they've been pretty supportive. Has there been any challenges there that you've maybe learned some things that you could share that might be a useful tip in dealing with family or even friends and maybe helping them understand this?
I think with everything, but especially with, specific to this, but with everything with my family, I think just having honest conversations about it and being able to state your viewpoint is huge. I wanted them to understand it. So whether or not my parents ever started to order their pad thai with tofu, I wanted them to at least know why I was doing it. So they didn't think, I think at first they thought, well, he's really into this girl and she's not eating meat. That's why he's doing it. And after we split up, I got a ton of questions of, are you still gonna be vegan? I'm like, yeah, Or one time somebody said, why don't you come over, I'm gonna put some steaks on. And I said, I don't eat steak. And they thought, oh, well, we thought now you would. So I think just having very open conversation and speaking of animals, and also, first, you can't do that without educating yourself. So I took in a lot of information to where I could give them the most informed viewpoint I could. And then doing it in a way that's not an attack or is not overly argumentative. Yeah. Because I think what you eat is a trigger for a lot of people. And I noticed that you start almost at a deficit when you bring up veganism, because people expect you to try to convert them or expect you to tell them that they're wrong or evil for eating meat. And even if I feel that way, maybe deep in my gut, I was trying to find a way to effectively communicate that without putting people in a corner.
Yeah. Because somebody told me once that people don't remember what you say, they remember how you make them feel.
That's a good way of putting it.
Now, when it comes to raising children this way, did you find that this was maybe challenging in a way that potentially wouldn't have been as challenging raising a child not this way?
I mean, we pack them lunch every day. With all the other things you have to juggle with parenting, I've often thought about how nice it would be to just send them to school and be able to have them eat the lunch that the school provides. Never mind that that's also cheaper, but that's where you have to really believe in it, which I do. But that was a challenge. And then I thought there would be more challenges coming in from school of, well, this kid is giving me a hard time. That hasn't happened so much. Or that they would say, well, my friends are eating this, or I'm going to this party and I really want to be able to eat the cake. Can I just eat it? And my kids are so convicted in it that they won't. I don't know what I would say. They haven't argued with us on it. I actually think if I said, you guys have the choice today to not be vegan, they wouldn't. I know they wouldn't do it. Wow. And I think having grown up not eating meat, the idea now to them, it seems very odd to them that anybody would kill a chicken and then eat it, for instance, or that anybody would go into the woods and sit there all day to shoot a deer and then go home and eat that. So they view it as very odd. And so some of the challenges I thought would be there aren't there. I do think the just the convenience and always having to prep and ask, well, there's this birthday party coming up. I guess I have to text this child's parents and ask if they're going to have an option. But again, to the credit of our community and people who aren't vegan, their friends, parents, their willingness to accommodate my kids has been above and beyond what I expected. I'm always willing to bring something for them or give them another option or feed them ahead of time, but more often than not, they're covered, and I'm really grateful. It kind of lets me know, honestly, that they're finding the right friends and finding the right circle.
That is so beautiful, man. That is so sweet. Yeah, man, that's good stuff. Now, how did you instill this in them? Is there something that you did magical to do this, to make this happen? Like how?
Well, again, I think I always talk to them in terms of, this is why we're this way. These are my philosophies on it. Very open dialogue. I'm open to the challenges. Challenge me on it. Ask me why we are like this. I want them to ask me tough questions, and they're very thoughtful kids as a result. And then some of it, like I said, I think if you are raised that way and you haven't, and that was a lot of it for me, is growing up, I just was given a glass of skim milk or 2% milk every day, and I was just presented with steak at dinner time, and I ate it. But if you're not used to that, if you haven't had it before, and then somebody tells you, well, like, we squeezed this out of a cow and now we want you to drink it, to them that's very odd, even though it's very normalized for everybody else. To them, it seems very, very strange. And so I think just being raised not around it, they see it they see it from a different perspective. We have some literature around the house, some books. There's some YouTube videos that have come on that they watch. But I think mostly it's just an open dialogue, and an open dialogue that includes me wanting them to ask me as many questions about it and challenge me on it as much as possible.
If somebody sits down at the table and says, hey, is it okay if I order chicken? What do you say?
Yeah, I would say yeah. I mean, people have sat at this very table. My friends sit at this very table and eat chicken all the time. And that's something where I think, and knowing some other vegans, you go through this a little bit of a militant phase. Where you're like, don't bring that around me. And then you I think I at least softened up and said, well, if I say no, tomorrow at lunch they're gonna go eat chicken. So what am I doing? So it's better, I think I can more effectively communicate it if I'm not that way. If I say, yeah, go ahead and eat that. But I'm gonna get this tofu and I want you to try this. Or I'm gonna get, this Beyond Burger and I want you to try it. And I want you to hear me out on why I don't eat that anymore. And
so you're going to say all that to them?
I have, yeah. They're probably tired of me a little bit by now, but I've broken some of them down a little bit. Yeah. And my opinion on it now is that I'm never going to get all of my friends to be vegan. Yeah. But if I can get them to think about the choices, if I can get them to understand my choice first, think about their choices and reduce, which a lot of them have, then that's still a win for the planet and for society if they cut meat out of their meals a couple days a week, which I think I've succeeded in that goal.
Well, one thing that I've been able to come up with, and I probably share a little too much in these interviews with that question but it's just such a fun one. The response is, why are you asking me that?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead. And
or it's not go ahead, it's like, well, why are you asking me that?
I always say, you eat what you eat, I eat what I eat. Yeah. Deep down, I don't feel that way. If I'm being honest, I'd rather they not. Yeah. But I don't think that the message gets across and I probably lose my friends if I start restricting what they can and can't do around me. Yeah.
But if you just ask, it prompts them to kind of think, well, why am I asking that?
Right.
Some people take the liberation pledge where they'll sit at a different table or something. Yeah, I'd rather be able to have an opportunity like you to have a conversation. I think that's great.
And I think I was that person once. Yeah. I was 100% that person. Yeah. And I eventually found my way to veganism. And I don't know if it would have happened if I got shamed every time I ate meat by people. So I think that having been where they are, having sat in that seat, having eaten the dish with chicken, I saw how I could transition over and how I found it. And I think you have to, in a way, I don't know that you can take it by force and make people that way. I think that they have to find their way a little bit, and you kind of slowly, subtly give them some hints, and then they sort of, I think that's a more effective way, at least for me, a more effective way of communicating my message.
What's an ideal day of eating look like for you?
Yeah, so I intermittent fast. So I stop eating at usually 6 or 7 in the evening, and then I eat again at 10 or 11 the next morning. I'm a big coffee guy, and so I like to have some morning coffee, and then usually, something breakfasty when I break my fast at 10 or 11, something like some waffles or oatmeal. I eat that with the kids. It depends on what I'm doing that day. I'm fairly active. So if I know I'm going to go out for a run, or I'm playing sports that day, or going to the gym, then I'll probably have a smoothie, bananas, peanut butter. I use vegan protein, and then try to eat a little bit bigger around 4:30, 5 o'clock, knowing that I'm going to end eating for the day at 6. And so we'll eat, something then. I try to, on the weekends, I don't go as hard on those fasting times, because I want to be able to go out with my friends. I want to be able to go out with my family. I like to take the kids out for something to eat late. And then that's usually when I'll allow myself to eat out and, maybe get some pizza or some Thai food or something like that. But during the week, I'm pretty basic, and it's a lot of, try to make one of my meals liquid. So a smoothie in the middle of the day.
And what kind of meals do you enjoy making the most?
We have this big cast iron pan, and so, tofu scrambles, stir fry, things that I can then pack up and eat again and again and again. The kids really like that. The kids I kind of like to make vegan versions of things that I ate as kids, so that I also don't feel like they're losing anything. So they can have spaghetti and meatballs, or they can have, stir fry with rice, which is what my parents made a lot of that kind of meal. We make our own pizza at home. And other things, like when I go to parties, I like to make dip, spinach and artichoke dip. I figured out how to make a pretty good cashew cheese. So it's a fun thing for me to bring those places and have people try it and say, like, oh, this isn't, there's no dairy in this queso you made. And so those are kind of my things.
Now, as far as you mentioned meatballs, what do you get, like some sort of like pre-packaged vegan meatballs, or do you make your own? Or?
It depends on how busy I am that week. If it's busy, then I'll just get the Beyond meatballs, or if they're happen to be on sale, then I'll grab those. It just kind of depends on what's in front of me. Or we just get the ground and I roll them up.
The ground. Oh, the ground.
Like the Beyond already, the Impossible or the Beyond that kind of comes in a block, and I make my own. Or not make my own, but roll it up.
Yeah. Do you kind of cover all the categories: legumes, greens, grains, fruits, veggies, mushrooms, nuts, seeds, herbs, and spices?
I do my best. Honestly, it's been a transition year too, to where, was married to a vegan, and we were living, all 4 of us, in this house, and now it's like Dad takes care of half the meals of the week here. I'm doing more of the grocery shopping on my own, so trying to make it as balanced as possible. It probably has not been perfect during this year. We do eat a lot of legumes, a lot of beans, a lot of nuts. Like I said, make sauces out of nuts, so that helps. The leafy greens, I try to sneak those into my smoothies as much as possible, and for them too. But I probably need to do a better job of that. But just in the last year, it's been kind of treading water and just making sure that, there's been a lot of transitioning. And with that, grocery shopping and doing the cooking and doing a lot of the meal planning for the kids have been jobs that I've had to take over for part of the week.
Yeah. And so there is a learning curve, obviously, and that's why it's important to be an ethical vegan, because it's not a diet. And so if we treat it like a diet, then there's no reason for us to resist that social pressure, right? And cheat occasionally, right? The idea of cheating for an ethical vegan would be like, it's just like eating a person or something, right? Is it like that for you?
Yeah. Well, I still think like there's cheat meals, which would be, but the cheat meals to me is getting like pizza, but it's vegan pizza.
Yeah,
and
because
so,
it's healthy, right?
Yeah. So I'm cheating on the health, but yeah, the ethics are, to me, the ethics are the reason. It holds everything together. Yeah. I don't think without that, I don't think I would have stuck with the diet.
Exactly. Yeah. Because it might be hard to do it perfectly. So it sounds like you're still learning because you're doing it all on your own. You have so many people are busy, and me too. I learn as much as I can, and you're doing the intermittent fasting thing. And I find that fascinating because I was doing that for a while, the intermittent fasting. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, because when I was doing intermittent fasting, I was doing the same exact thing. Started eating around 11, getting tanked up on coffee first thing in the morning. I did the exact same thing. You ever hear about Dr. Greger? You ever listen to him?
No, he's not. Well, I've heard of it, but I've never
Nutrition
listened
Facts?
to it. I've never actually listened to it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So there's like do you follow any doctors in particular?
I don't. The YouTube channel I watch the most is Earthling Ed, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely an ethical vegan.
Yeah.
Greger mentions quite a few times that, eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. And this way it gives you time to, have a break from metabolizing, and you might sleep better, stuff like that. And there was a study, though, recently that said people who intermittent fast don't have as good of health outcomes as we thought in the long run. And I was like, well, that's so odd. And a lot of people were like, what? And me too, because like I was intermittent fasting a lot. I wasn't doing it like intentionally. It just seemed like easy to just get up and not eat, just drink coffee. It was like easy. Then the cardiologist, Dr. Joe Kahn, mentioned, well, he thinks the reason why that study was showing that is because people were skipping breakfast and eating too late in the day. And there's also a lot of evidence that the later you eat, now you might go to bed late. I don't know what time you go to bed and stuff, but the later you eat, the harder it is for your body to process that. And so it kind of affects you different. So I didn't know if you're familiar with any of that, but I think you can still do the intermittent fasting, but move it toward like the morning and eat a heavier breakfast. And so I've been experimenting with that. It's a transition, but it's like a learning curve, and there's always a way to take it to another level,
It's difficult with kids this age. 'Cause I would like to do that, but then I don't get like the dinner time with them. Or if they want to go out in the evening, and then I've tried that, and then I end up sitting there while they eat and I don't eat. So there's a little bit of that. So for me right now, because of how old they are and the transition of what this last year has been like, I'm just trying to, like I said, just kind of kick the can down the road until I can get to a point where I can do all of this better. So, just trying to keep the ball rolling.
So we really are all just kind of learning how to take it up to another level. Like some people would get as nuanced, they're really particular about the clothing they wear, the furniture they buy, the bed they sleep in, the car seat, making sure there's no plastics and things. And there's always a way to take it to another level with diet and purchases. It sounds like you're doing an excellent job, and your kids are obviously healthy and vibrant and beautiful. And I want to just thank you so much for allowing me into your life and capture this, because I think a lot of people aren't aware that you could raise your kids this way. When they do get exposed to it, I can only imagine they would be as shocked as I was. So cool that you realized this so early on and were able to pull this off. And this is, like, to me, the most important work I think I could be doing, because I think it's going to be the biggest pivotal shift in the movement when people realize, wow, not only is it healthy and appropriate for every stage of life to raise your children this way, but it also reduces the risk for chronic disease and all-cause mortality. In a sense, you'd almost have to be crazy once you realize that not to raise your kids this way.
So yeah, I think it's really great to see them be able to go to school and talk to their friends about it. And you heard Ellis say, there's kids in my class who don't really like eating animals either, but they're just given that in their lunch, and kind of plant that seed of maybe something, what will that kid think someday when they can make their own choices, or maybe they'll start questioning that, or they've brought stuff to school and kids will eat, they'll trade snacks, and other kids will go, oh, this vegan cookie just tastes like a cookie. And so they're making some difference there. I would also say that where we live in Grand Rapids, there's this kind of pocket of vegan families, and we've gotten together and done potlucks and trunk or treats and special events, and there's several vegan bakeries in the area that have either hosted those or been a part of those and given us some product here and there. And I think that's really helped too. And they've met other vegan kids, and they've had some vegan friends here and there. But even if they didn't have that, they are so confident in the belief in what we're doing that they're able to go to school, and they have, 99% of their friends aren't vegan. 99% of my friends aren't vegan, and we just navigate that, and we've come to be able to respect each other's differences, but also their confidence in being able to say, this is why I'm doing it. That's the biggest thing I wanted to instill in them, obviously the health benefits too, but as they go through life and as they, they don't feel like outcasts, they're able to be different and be confident with it. And I think that that bleeds into other parts of their life, and so it's been really cool to see that.
Yeah, it's almost like Dr. Joel Furman said once, you have to be a leader to almost, pretty much to do this. It's almost like you're creating leaders, because if you're able to be different and proud of that, that's a good quality, right?
And and they see the movement is growing. So when they're able to say, they're like, Billie Eilish is vegan, and there's all, that I think that has helped a lot too. And there's a lot more pro athletes, and so when we turn on the TV and I'm like, that person's vegan and that person's vegan, or that helps a lot, I think.
Yeah. As far as though raising children this way, do you feel like it's probably the most advantageous way and perhaps the healthiest way to raise children?
Yeah, if I didn't, I wouldn't be doing it. I think I want to be careful with saying to all the parents out there that you're not doing the healthiest thing for your kids, because I know what it's like to be a parent. But certainly if I'm doing what I think is best for them, and this is what I think is best for them, health-wise and conscious-wise, and just I think the totality of it is, I think, the best way. And so, that's why I'm doing it and stuck with them, because it's not the easiest thing. There are inconveniences about it, and I do think that the firm belief in it is what's kept us going. And I have to say, with their mother, same thing. She's been very firm in that this is the best way to go.
Are you online or anything like that? Is there a way people can find out more about you?
Yeah, I'm pretty public. I'm a sports writer, and I'm on television for sports sometimes, and a stand-up comic. So I'm at Alan Trieu on Twitter, ALLENTRIEU. I guess it's called X now, but I kind of refuse to call it that. And on Instagram, Alan B. Trieu. And that's more kids and vegan food than it is. I don't put any sports or anything else on there, so you can find me there.
And I've got a website that I'm starting for this initiative called raisingchildrenvegan.com. And so, you don't have to, no pressure, but you can always join there and share a little bit of your story and a couple pictures. And together, I think, we might be able to make a vegan world.
Yeah, would love to. Yeah, happy to do anything like that to, move it ahead.
Any last minute encouraging words or anything we didn't get out there that you would like to throw out there?
I guess to summarize, my concern was that the kids would lose out in some way. Are they going to have an experience that's so different from their friends or so different from me growing up? They haven't. We went to Vegas last spring break. They loved exploring. It almost makes it better because we have to find things together. And they're like, can you believe they have this that's vegan, this that's vegan? We went to Chicago this year for spring break, and we went to Chinatown and found a place that I think is vegetarian for sure, but a lot of vegan options. And go to Chicago Diner and places like that. It's another bonding experience for me and the kids to find these places, or to say, hey, it's 9 o'clock at night, but Insomnia Cookies is open, and they have vegan options, and so that's been fun. I don't think that they would tell you that they've they've lost anything or they're missing out on anything. I think it's quite the opposite. I think it's been enriching for them, and so and another thing that I have to bond with them over. So if anybody's concerned about that part of it with raising their kids, it hasn't been an issue in this house.
Awesome. Do you have any resources that you would recommend people might want to check out if they want to learn more about this?
Earthling Ed has been a great resource, and he has 2 books. So,
but like in respect to raising children,
raising children this way, personally, no. I think it was comparing notes with other vegan families. Their mother started a Grand Rapids vegan parenting Facebook group, and that was big to kind of say, what do you do? What do you do for this? What do you do for this? Where do you guys go for this? And then meeting up and then seeing like, okay, it's not just us. And the kids can see it's not just them. But I think I've taken a lot of the resources that I've consumed, the online content, the movies, and then just sort of used that in my parenting. But I don't know that there's anything specific to vegan parenting that I have consumed other than comparing notes in some of those Facebook groups.
As far as like the doctors and all, everybody's been supportive.
We made it a point and that was another resource, it was to ask in there, hey, who do you use for your pediatrician, and how are they with the diet? And we've had 2 different ones, and they've both been great and very supportive about that.
Wow, so no resistance really.
No resistance.
Yeah,
no.
Good stuff. Well, thanks for helping me normalize this, and congratulations on doing such an excellent job.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Awesome. Oh, well, you're a comedian.
Yeah.
What? Are you like a vegan comedian?
I have a little moments of veganism in there.
Yeah.
I haven't quite found out how to make it funny to the masses because I still have to appeal to this whole crowd of people who are sitting there thinking.
There are some vegan comedians
There
out
are.
there.
Mike Kaplan, who's pretty famous, is a vegan comedian. He talks about it some. As a comedian, the most annoying thing to me is sort of the hacky, basic vegan jokes of, how do you know somebody's vegan? They told you, like those kind of, because for one, as a comedian, it's a bad joke. It's not creative, it's overdone, it's not funny. And as a vegan too, it's not true. So I don't want to like play into that, or I've heard other comics make jokes about, vegans being
Well, that's not very
tired,
original at
not
all.
none of them are. And so if I'm gonna talk about it, it has to be in a way that doesn't hurt the movement, and it's funny to a whole bunch of people who aren't vegan, and I haven't really found that sweet spot much yet. So, still working on it.
Okay, well, I'm excited to see if you can pull something off, or at least together a little bit on that.
Every now and then there's something. A lot of it's about my own experience, but yeah, it's more, there's other things that I can relate to the audience on a little better right now. But I'd love to get it in there, but I don't want to take the low-hanging fruit, and I don't want it to be anything that does harm to the movement. And so I feel the same way about talking about like race, religion, politics. Like if it's going to like give people the wrong impression, then I don't talk about it. So yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for that little bit there too.
Yeah, no problem.
Hi, my name's Ellis, and I've been vegan my whole life
Cool. And why are you vegan?
because we don't want animals to die and it's healthy and good for us.
Are your parents vegan too?
Yeah,
And do you have a brother?
yeah,
Is he vegan too?
yeah,
He's been vegan his whole life?
yeah.
Oh, cool. What are some of your favorite foods to eat?
Kiwis. I like to eat oatmeal, apples. I like to eat Doritos.
Doritos.
Yeah.
Are those vegan?
Yeah, some of them.
Oh.
The spicy chili.
Oh, the spicy chili is vegan?
Yeah.
That's the one you like?
Yeah.
Cool. What about like for dinner?
Spaghetti, taco bowls, and that stuff.
Okay. Do you go to school?
Yeah.
Are you homeschooled?
No.
Okay, so you go. Is it easy to be vegan at school?
Yeah, it is because I'm cold lunch every day, so my parents just pack me lunch and they pack me my snack like every kid. So yeah.
Do you feel like you're like way different than other kids, or do you kind of feel the same?
Well, so.
So. Do you think other kids might like to be vegan too?
Yeah, a couple kids in my class don't really like to eat meat that often because they also don't like to eat animal, but they also sometimes do eat it.
Yeah. And what about like when you go to a party? Do you go to any like kids parties or events? Like
Yeah.
like holidays like Christmas or Halloween?
Yeah.
Is that something where you bring your own food too?
Well, on Halloween, I just take the candy, and the candy that's not vegan, I give it to my friends and stuff.
Do you know how to read the labels?
Some of them,
Okay.
most of them,
How do you do in school? Are you doing pretty good in school?
yeah.
What's your favorite class?
PE.
What do you like about PE?
I like it because I get to run around and play games.
What's some of your favorite games?
I like to play tag. I like to do switches.
Do your parents ever talk to you about what's happening when people eat animals? Do you know what's happening there?
Yeah, the different types of meat. Are you talking about that? I know gelatin, it's crushed up animal bones, and just meat, it's dead animal. Yeah.
Does that make you sad at all ever?
Yeah, sometimes.
But overall, are you happy being vegan?
Yeah,
What's your favorite part about being vegan?
that I don't kill animals and it's healthy. Two things.
Does any of your friends like think that your food is interesting and different?
Yeah.
Okay. And are you able to tell them why you're eating that way?
Yeah.
What do you say to other kids?
I would say that, well, sometimes I just like try because I'm like literally eating real animal and like it's a real living thing. Living things, we don't want to eat them because, well, they're living.
Yeah.
Like imagine if someone came and ate you.
That wouldn't be good. Well, I appreciate your time, and I guess we'll get your brother next.
Okay.
You did so good. Thank you. Do you like being in front of cameras?
Yeah, sometimes.
I'm Avery, and I've been vegan my whole life
Cool. And why are you vegan?
because it helps me and other animals.
Okay. How does it help you?
Because it's a lot better for your body. I could explain the science, but I probably won't.
Well, why not? Go ahead.
I mean, so how we get the nutrients from the plants, the sun, it gives it the vitamins and stuff. But when the cow eats the plants, it gives the cow nutrients, it gives it less because it's been processed more,
Yeah.
if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Because the animal ate the plants and then it metabolized those, and the antioxidants have already been used up.
Yeah.
Have you learned about trophic levels in school? Not
No.
yet? Okay. Some energy's lost there. Yeah. So, what else? How might it be healthier for you in that way? Is there anything else you want to say?
Not really.
Okay. Now you also mentioned that it's good for the animals, right?
Yeah, because they're not getting brutally slaughtered.
Yeah. And how did you become aware of all this?
Well, I'm not quite sure. It might have been that one movie, Charlotte's Web, and I recently read a book. It's showing like a metaphor of a slaughterhouse. The world's been like taken over by slaughterhouses. There's like humanoid pigs.
What's that book called?
Oink, Heaven's Butcher. It's really gory and bloody.
Wow, I haven't heard of that
It's a
one.
good metaphor though for butcher.
What about at school? Do you go to school?
Yeah,
You're not homeschooled?
No.
Okay, cool. And what grade are you in?
4th.
And do you have any difficulties there at school being vegan?
Mostly in 3rd or 2nd grade, kids would come. They would like ask me dumb questions. I think they would know this, but apparently they don't. They would ask, "Are carrots vegan? Are grapes vegan? Is lettuce vegan? Is ham vegan?" Kind of obvious things.
Well, they're trying to learn. They don't know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you feel like it's fun to educate them, or do you feel awkward?
Sometimes when I'm just minding my own business and someone walks up to me, just because I'm the vegan kid, I don't know. It's kind of weird. Because I don't want to at school. I don't care that everyone knows I'm vegan, but I don't want my whole identity to be the vegan kid.
Yeah. What other kind of things do you like to do?
At school, me and my friends play games based off of imagination. They get really crazy. There's aliens, there's interdimensional creatures. It's really fun.
So you're into sci-fi, right?
Yeah.
And don't you want to be all in horror, you said?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And so you're like into cinematography as well, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you want to be when you grow up?
Maybe. I'm also focused on breakdancing. I'm a breakdancer.
Oh, wow.
And veganism probably helps me with that
How so?
because it's healthier for me, and breakdancers need to be healthy to do what they do.
Yeah, that makes sense. What kind of foods do you like to eat?
I like to eat a lot of foods, but my favorite is sandwiches. Love sandwiches.
Describe what kind of sandwich you might like to eat.
I like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches,
Well, that's pretty simple.
but they're amazing.
Yeah, they are good. And any other kind?
Just all sandwiches in general.
Like, do you ever have like a tempeh sandwich or like a some sort of soy-based sandwich?
I don't even know the names of the sandwiches. I just know they're delicious.
Okay. You ever had a jackfruit burger?
When we went to Chicago, what sandwich did
Oh,
you
yeah.
like when we just went to
Chicken, bacon, avocado.
Okay. And what did they use instead of chicken?
Yeah, I heard they make it out of soy plant. It's like the same taste and everything.
Yeah, because it's
That's
all
how
in the
they do it.
seasoning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you have for breakfast on a typical day?
Waffle cereal or oatmeal. It's usually.
Okay. What do you put in your oatmeal? Berries or anything like that?
I mean, some people think it's gross, which I agree without peanut butter. Peanut butter on cereal. A lot of people think I'm gross for putting peanut butter on certain things, like
What about like your
toast, pancakes, waffles.
oatmeal? Oh, you put it on everything.
Oh yeah, I love peanut.
It is good on a lot of things. I agree. Do you put it in your oatmeal too?
Yeah.
What about berries? Do you ever eat those? Or fruits?
Yeah, I like berries. I don't usually put them in the oatmeal though.
Okay. What about salads? Do you ever eat those?
Salad. Yeah, they're good. I haven't eaten one in a while, but they're good. I don't know why I haven't eaten one in a while. I should.
What about like beans? What kind of beans?
Beans. Just a lot of beans.
Just any kind of beans? So we covered beans and greens and grains, which are your oatmeal. And so legumes, greens, grains, fruits, right? What kind of fruits? You mentioned berries a little bit. Any others?
Cool.
Your sister mentioned kiwis, right?
There are a lot of fruits I like. I like mango. I like peach. I like all the fruits.
Okay.
Every single one.
Cool. You never had a bad fruit.
No.
Awesome. So legumes, greens, grains, fruits, veggies. Do you like any kind of veggies in particular?
Yep.
Like
I like most of them.
like which kinds?
I like carrots.
Like squash or
Ooh, yeah,
potatoes?
squash
You
is
like
good.
potatoes?
Ooh, potatoes are good.
Any? Do you like Japanese sweet potatoes?
Yeah.
You ever had that?
Yeah. Well,
Or the
have I?
fun-
I don't know. I like Asian food though. So.
Okay, like the purple ones. You ever had the purple sweet potatoes?
No.
Those are pretty good too. Okay.
Now I want some.
The Japanese are my favorite potatoes. So you like the sweet ones that are orange?
Yeah, those are good. Potato, the brown one. I just love potatoes.
What about mushrooms?
Mushrooms? Yeah, not a huge fan of mushrooms.
Yeah, that might be an older food. Okay, so legumes, greens, grains, fruits, veggies, mushrooms, nuts, and seeds?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I love sunflower seeds. They're so good.
Yeah, those are a good source of vitamin E, so I'm glad you like that. What about walnuts or pecans or almonds?
I just like all the nuts.
Nice. Well, cool. So anything else you want to say about being vegan? And do you hope that others will be vegan?
Yeah.
Do you think it's
definitely
important for everybody to do this?
Yeah.
Do you think it's the healthiest way to be?
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, I appreciate your time, and let me know if there's anything else you want to throw out there.
Oh, so we were talking about vitamins, right?
Yeah, okay.
Some people think that's why vampires suck blood, because they can't go out in the sun and get vitamin C from it.
D.
Oh, D, yeah.
Yeah.
So they suck blood,
Oh,
so they can get their vitamins.
okay. Yeah, how else are they going to get vitamins? Are you happy to be vegan?
Yeah.
Can you imagine being any other way?
It's kind of hard to, actually, since I've been vegan my whole life.
Yeah.
And it's not really an allergy. A lot of people ask if it's an allergy.
Yeah.
But if I ate meat, my stomach might get sick because it's used to vegan.
Yeah. Are you proud that your parents brought you up this way?
Yeah.
Cool. You think if you ever have kids one day, you'll raise them vegan?
Yeah. Probably.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, man. You did good.